Yes, people, welcome back to Let's Talk Everything. I'm your trainee psychotherapist. Welcome, who has a channel that talks about everything and anything. So much of my interests are deep dive into many different things, and I choose to talk about it on here. So if you're new here, show support and love to the channel. If you've already been here, continue to show your love and support to the channel. I really do appreciate for the people that have shown love and support. And yeah, man, with that being said, let's get straight into this video. And today I wanted to talk about ego. I spoke about ego in one of my parenting videos where I talk about sometimes having our egos in the way of our parenting can be damaging for ourselves as well as our relationship with our children. And sometimes that interpersonal relationships is much more fruitful and beneficial with the relationships that you have with your children. Fast forward now, we have a situation once again that is ego is displayed in a very different form, and that's in the world of football. Seeing the whole Mo Salah comments. Mo Salah has spoken out with a Norwegian sort of press and spoke about how the club has thrown him under the bus. He doesn't have a relationship with the gaffer, and all hell has break loose. And I wanted to speak how sometimes when you have somebody with such stature like Mo Salah, a legend at the club, who now speaks about, you know, the club in a disdain sort of way, especially when the club is going through such a turmoil at this current time. So much pressure on the club as well as the manager. And I wanted to really give my sort of perspective how the ego, and especially when we don't check our ego, it can be so damaging. And sometimes the consequences that we have, the consequences that we face when we allow our ego to sort of, when we don't have our ego in check, and how much that displays onto others. The likes of Virgil van Dijk and Andrew Robertson, Alisson Becker, who done the press conference for the Champions League for before the Inter Milan game. He spoke out as well about the Mo Salah situation. And of course, you've got the pundits and everyone else are speaking about it. Like I said, I think this is a very much news in today's climate, where a lot of people is going to make some sort of content about it, and rightly so. And for me here, from someone who does studying to be a therapist, we talk about the ego a lot, from Freud's term, the sort of id, the ego and the super ego. Lots of, Carl Jung's and different sort of ideal of ego death. In many different ways we speak about ego in the world of therapy, and I just wanted to give my sort of perspective on the whole sort of Mo Salah situation. Listen, before I talk about what Mo Salah's comments, for me personally, where I stand with Mo Salah, he's obviously going to be a legend at Liverpool club. Despite, these comments will blow over. He's going to retire one day, and we'll always look back at Mo Salah as being one of the greatest Liverpool players that's played for our club. I want to start detailing little signs. Mo Salah has a very big image. He's adored by the fans, right? And once, adored, we love Mo Salah. And sometimes we paint him with that sort of brush. But also, as human nature, we always have the dark side or sides or parts of ourselves that we don't sort of like, and sometimes we get to see that. Despite there's so much good that people have done for, especially like the likes of Mo Salah, what he's done for Liverpool, we sort of miss those little moments. And I think for me, when there was alarm bells ringing, was the West Ham game. So I remember after the 2-2 draw, West Ham away, I think Salah was on the bench. Jurgen Klopp brought him on, and there was that feud on the touchline. And I remember they were arguing on the pitch. It didn't seem to go really well. And I remember, I think after that game, Salah came out and saying, I think, quote, "There will be fire," right? And I remember everybody tried to speculate. What does he mean by that? Is it beef with the Jurgen Klopp? I think there was conversations about if Jurgen Klopp did stay, there'll be a conversation about Salah leaving the club. Cool. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp left. Arne Slot comes in. I remember when Arne Slot came in and Salah spoke about to the press. I think with Sky Sports, he said something. Salah said to him, "Yo, if you play me, or if you build this team around me, we can win the Premier League." And
at the time.
To be fair, we had a few honest conversation between us, and he was very honest, and he told me, look, he showed me a few clips of mine and said, with this move, we can win everything. With this move, we can't win much. So I want to get the best out of you. I want this one to be available the whole season, and I want you to have your best years coming with me. I said, okay. Let me know what you want from me, then I will do it, because I'm very professional and I know what can I do. So he didn't challenge me. Honestly, I just felt it is like he was very respectful, and I told him that you're a very respectful person. He was very respectful.
So be it. Listen, he did it. We won the Premier League. Mo Salah left last season with amount of accolades. You know, the Premier League, Golden Boot, the assist, like everything, and he was playing out of his skin. You know what I'm saying? Like that Salah team, he definitely. People might not want to hear this, but Salah definitely carried us into that Premier League last season, and rightly so, right? Because he's a world-class player. Boom. Come today and come right now, we have Mo Salah speaking to the Norwegian press, saying phrases like, I'm very disappointed. I've done so much for this club and I don't think I'm the problem. I feel like I've been thrown under the bus. I said many times I have a good relationship with the manager. After the sudden, we don't have a relationship. I don't know why. I want to pick up the I's. The I's are very important. I don't know why. I think it's very clear someone wants me to take all the blame. I feel like I'm being thrown under the bus. I'm Phil. I'm Phil.
I'm Phil. I'm very Phil.
I'm very disappointed. I've done bare eyes. I think Gerald probably came out as well. I think it was Gerald or one of these pundits. So many people are talking about this and they're saying, rah, you know, it's a team game. He's everything, you know, Jamie Carragher said as well. He's just thinking about himself. He's selfish in that sort of regard. And it's hard to look at someone like Mo Salah who says he's done so much for this club. And you know, like nowadays, you know, these players are kind of sometimes robots, right? They say, you know, I'm happy to get the 3 points. I'm happy to help the team. Mo Salah has said that countless of time. But when things are not going your way, all of a sudden it is I. And rightly, and in some regards, you can make it understandable. If you're one of the highest paid players at the club, you've done so much for the club, and he is right in that regard, and you've been on the bench for 3 games. You might be thinking to yourself, why should I be getting benched when I see the likes of maybe Gakpo that hasn't been playing really well, the likes of Virgil van Dijk. The team itself hasn't been doing really well, and why should I be on the bench when I know I can make a difference? But then, where's the reality check? And this is where we get a bit confused. And I'm trying to be impartial here. I'm not trying to take Salah's side. I'm not trying to take Arne Slot's side. Yes, Liverpool is doing really badly this season, but individually, we can say that Mo Salah hasn't been at his best this season. But this is where, like, okay, that's another story. That's when I do my match reaction where I speak about that. But this is what I'm speaking about. Okay, you know that team morale is down. You go out your way to talk about how you feel let down. You feel disappointed. You feel like the club has thrown you under the bus. And I'm thinking to myself, well, the club has done everything that they can do. They've renewed your contract twice. They've renewed your contract twice. You've got a family in Liverpool. You say you love Liverpool. You say you want to stay at Liverpool. You already know who you are. You know, that stature, right? And for you to come out and make these comments, if you're going to try, you know, be one of these leaders or people to help the club and love this club, why would you go out and speak about this type of thing? And this what makes me question your ego. What happens when players that this statures, the Cristiano Ronaldos, the David Beckhams, the Zlatans, the Lamine Yamals, there are very different ego archetypes. Like I think, you know, Kylian Mbappe, look at his whole tenure at PSG, that sort of power play. Him get to decide who takes penalties, who, where he decides where he wants to play. But at the same time, I thought in football we have a coach. I thought we had a coach on the touchline that gets to make those decisions. And sometimes we might be angry about those decisions, fair enough. But then where do we humble ourselves in this situation? Or we check our own ego and be like, raw, okay, I know I may not agree with the gaffer, but I have to look at things in totality. I have to look at as a team, not just myself, right? And then when you come out like this, I'm seeing so much I. And now, but then we don't hear that from any other players. What is it for? So why all of a sudden, and it's like, you know this is damaging because look what people are doing now. Look what I'm doing right now. I'm making a video about the damaging comments that Mo Salah has made. And I say it's damaging because we've already been doing terribly, because we know if we was doing good, this wouldn't have happened. Of course not. We saw it last season. Everything was going good. The contract situation, I remember he came out and said, I'm more out than in. But I think we probably looked at that was probably a power move And this is where you exercise your power move, and this is where, you know, you try and keep your ego in check. You still do your business on the pitch. You know, you're trying to help the team out. Of course, you might say a little nudge to the owners, hey, yo, I want a contract because this is what I can do. Fair dues, and we can sort of understand that. But when things go terribly wrong, is this what we tend to do? Is this what happens now? I don't understand in football where I genuinely think we still have to humble ourselves, despite the legacy, despite the, you know, the prestigious that we have, or how we're adored in our clubs. I think there should be a level of humbleness that you should obtain, and because it doesn't bode well. Look what we're talking about now. Look what pundits are talking about. Look what's happened with Liverpool Football Club. See, the game of football is a practical game and it's a numbers game, and it's a high performing game. You're not performing on that level. Despite what you've done for the club, despite how many trophies that you've won, if you're not performing on the pitch and the gaffer says to you, you need to be dropped, hey, you gotta be dropped. You gotta be dropped. We are that goody two-shoes club, and I don't think that's a bad thing, right? We don't really want to air out our dirty laundry because we see how damaging it can be. The likes of Sancho at United, the likes of Garnacho at United as well, Anthony. You know, Man United is an example of how, you know, in the dressing room antics and how it bleeds onto the pitch, how it bleeds onto the whole club, the morale of the club, it is very damaging. However, I will single out Trevor Chalobah, you know, who went on loan to Crystal Palace after, you know, Chelsea tried to exile him. He was a great professional, went to Crystal Palace, they recalled him back, and now he's on the first team for Chelsea. Whether or not you think it's a good play or not, but I think that Trevor Chalobah is an honourable shout out to say how professionally you try to keep things in-house and you just conduct yourself in the right way. And people might say Trevor Chalobah is not in the same stature of that the Mo Salah, but I do think there is a sort of moral code where we, you know, despite if we're at the top level of our game, at the bottom level of the game, there is respect among others, and there is respect for the club and respect for ourselves, and we don't allow our ego to displace onto these type of things. That doesn't bode well for the club or for any individual, especially when you're going through a difficult patch in your season as a team, as an individual. To round up, whether it be football, parenting, day-to-day life, day-to-day job, you know, the people that we surround ourselves with, if we don't keep our ego in check, put ourselves in a position where we can hurt others and we can hurt ourselves. And if you're not prepared to acknowledge that or to understand that, you have to deal with the consequences that comes your way. I do believe that Arne Slot, as the coach, remember, as the coach, that he was right to drop Mo Salah for the Inter Milan game. It was rightly so that the higher-ups has to deal with that. And the coach, remember, we got a coach that has to deal with the team that has to get ready to face Brighton on the weekend. And with the higher-ups and Mo Salah, they have to hash it out. They have to, you know, Mo Salah has every right to speak up about, you know, the grievances that he has with the coach, with the club, wherever it may be. You know, he might be right in what he's saying, that he might feel that the club has thrown him under the bus or promises that have not been made. He has every right to feel entitled for that. But the difference is where we don't allow our ego to bypass our morals and our values to go against the grain. And once we do that, this is what happens. I think that moving forward, I think Arne Slot and Mo Salah can sort what they want to sort out. They can. But I think this goes to show for anyone that's going into whatever profession in life, how that ego, if you don't have your ego in check, because we all do have an ego, we do. But if we don't have it in check, or we don't recognize how sometimes our ego can be damaging for others or to ourselves, that is a big problem, right? And if we can able to humble our ego, that's keeping ourselves in check, it allows us to see perspective. It allows us to have an understanding that's not our own. So Mo Salah doesn't have to use language of I. And yes, he might feel that he's disappointed, but then there's a way about it. There's a language that you can use that best protects yourself, and also be able to air out, you know, your grievances about not being happy on the bench. That's absolutely valid. But stuff like being thrown under the bus, that is stuff like you keep in house. And when we keep our ego in check, we're able to know, okay, these are the, you know, language that I can use. These are the ways that I can approach the situation, with making sure that I don't disrespect others, and also don't even disrespect myself, but also allow myself to speak up. I think Mo Salah knows that he's done something wrong. I think he knows that. Whether or not it will be sorted out, Whether or not he'll be at Liverpool moving forward, who knows? We'll wait and see what happens. As a fan, I will still want Mo Salah to be here if it means that he can step up his performances. And if he doesn't, then I would say, yeah, classic. Your legs are gone, mate. And that's absolutely fine. That is no problem. Some of the best players that I've watched, there's some of them, bro, they don't play football. Thiago Alcantara, he doesn't play football, but he was, you know, the best player. But when his legs started to go, his legs started to go, and that's okay. All right. And I think sometimes as well, this is where the ego comes in as well, where we don't have an ego in check, and you know, you're still thinking that you're entitled to feel like I'm still the main guy. You're not the main guy. Yes, you do like to play with Diaz and Nunes, but now you've got Florian Wirtz and Isak. Yeah, those are the new guys. Those are the guys we should cater for because they're the long-term future of the club. You're 33, Mo Salah. Right? And the coach, if you're not performing, the coach has every right to put you on the bench. It's important to keep our ego in check. That's what I want to say. Mo Salah's not bad for speaking out, but there are consequences when you speak out in terms like that. And those language that you use doesn't sit well with everybody at Liverpool Football Club and some other people outside of that. That's what I wanted to say, people. That was my little 2 pence on just the ego in football and just more specifically on the Mo Salah situation from a lens of more of a sort of trainee therapeutic lens. Hope you enjoyed the video, people. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe. Take care.